You've heard of the Amityville horror family driven from their home by forces they couldn't understand. But what you're about to hear is just as terrifying, and unlike Hollywood's version, every word is documented. This is the true story of the Blackwell family and the nursery that should have remained empty. The social workers who placed the children there gave one warning that should have been heeded: never, under any circumstances, leave a child alone in that room after sunset. That warning would prove to be tragically insufficient. March 2019. Sarah and Michael Blackwell had just finalized the adoption of two siblings, 4-year-old Emma and 6-year-old Daniel. The Victorian home they purchased in Ashford, Connecticut seemed perfect. 5 bedrooms, a wraparound porch, and a third-floor nursery with hand-painted murals of lullaby scenes. Sarah, a pediatric nurse, had spent weeks preparing that nursery. She'd restored the antique crib, hung new curtains, and filled the shelves with toys. Michael, a software engineer who worked from home, converted the adjacent room into his office. They were living the dream they'd worked years to achieve. The first incident happened on Emma's second night in the house. Sarah heard her screaming at 2047 a.m., a sound she described as pure terror. When she rushed into the nursery, Emma was standing in her crib, pointing at the rocking chair in the corner. "The sad lady won't stop singing," Emma sobbed. The chair was moving. Gently rocking, as if occupied by an invisible presence. Sarah grabbed Emma and the movement stopped instantly. Michael checked every window, every door. Nothing was open. No draft could explain it. They convinced themselves it was the old house settling, but Daniel knew better. The next morning at breakfast, he asked his new parents why the lady in the white nightgown only came when it was dark. "She stands by Emma's crib and sings," he said, his voice unnaturally calm for his 6-year-old. "But her song is wrong. The words are backwards." Sarah felt ice spread through her chest. Neither child had been in a nursery together during the night. They couldn't have coordinated the story. The escalation was swift. Within a week, the phenomena became undeniable. Toys would arrange themselves in perfect circles. The antique music box Sarah had locked in a drawer would play from inside closed furniture. Emma developed bruises on her arms, small fingerprints too tiny to be adult hands. The pediatrician found no medical explanation. Daniel stopped sleeping entirely, sitting up in his bed whispering responses to questions no one else could hear. He told Sarah the sad lady was angry because her baby was taken away and she wants a replacement. Michael installed cameras. What they captured defied explanation. At 3:17 a.m. on March 28th, the nursery footage showed the crib violently shaking for 14 seconds. Emma's screams weren't picked up by the audio the recording was filled, instead with a woman's voice singing a distorted version of Rockabye Baby. The lyrics were reversed, as Daniel had described. When they played it backwards, they heard clear words: "When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall, and mama will catch you. Blood, baby, and all." Desperate, Sarah contacted Dr. Marcus Chen, a paranormal investigator and former priest who'd worked with the Warrens in the 1990s. Dr. Chen had a personal connection to the case his own daughter had died in infancy, and he dedicated his life to protecting children from supernatural harm. He arrived with Margaret Keene, a sensitive who'd helped families in over 60 documented hauntings. Margaret couldn't enter the nursery. She stood at the thresholds trembling and said 3 words: postpartum psychosis, murder-suicide, 1924. Dr. Chen's research uncovered the truth. The house's original owner, Dorothy Ashford, had suffered severe postpartum depression after her daughter was stillborn in that very nursery. 3 months later, she hanged herself from the bedroom ceiling beam, the same beam now hidden behind Sarah's decorative ceiling panels. The coroner's report noted scratch marks on her wrists and neck, suggesting she'd fought against her own hands in her final moments. Dorothy had never accepted her baby's death. According to hospital records, she tried to steal 3 infants from the maternity ward before her family committed her. She'd escaped and returned home for one final act. Dr. Chen recommended a full exorcism, but Michael refused. A full exorcism would require the Catholic diocese documentation and inevitably media attention. He'd fought for years to adopt these children. He wouldn't let a ghost story destroy their chance at a normal family. Instead, they hired a local medium who performed a cleansing ritual with sage and salt. It failed catastrophically. That night, Emma was found unconscious in the nursery, her lips blue, the antique crib's mobile wrapped around her neck. She survived, but the hospital psychiatrist noted she wouldn't speak except to sing the same backwards lullaby over and over. The Blackwells moved out within 48 hours. They sold the house at a loss to a developer who planned to convert it into apartments. But Sarah still reports hearing that lullaby in her dreams. Emma, now 9 years old, refuses to sleep in any room alone. Daniel sees the sad lady in every reflection, every window. Dr. Chen has tried twice more to get permission for a proper exorcism, but the new owners deny anything is wrong even as tenants rarely stay more than 3 months. Here's what the Blackwell case teaches us. Some spirits don't want peace. They want what was taken from them, and they'll reach across death itself to reclaim it. Ignoring a haunting doesn't make it disappear, it only gives it power. If you found this story disturbing, hit that like button. Subscribe for more true paranormal cases that'll keep you up at night. Comment below if you've ever experienced something you couldn't explain in your own home. Share this with someone who needs to understand that some warnings exist for a reason. Next week, we investigate the Hansen family and the mirror that showed them how they would die. Until then, check on your children. Not all lullabies are sung by the living.